Good morning and happy Wednesday, folks. William Tramp, also known as This FNGM here, ready to talk to you about a Chiefs Super Bowl victory! I'm kidding. We're here to talk about Encounter Party. Encounter Party episode 15 aired last night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Freevee and Plex. Well, really on the Dungeons & Dragons Adventures Network, found on Freevee and Plex. And it was a lot of fun. This is a very narrative episode, a very futuristic episode. Futuristic, you'll understand soon enough. Either way, we've got a really excited episode that I'm here to talk to you about today, but before I jump into the spoiler-filled recap, I should probably let you know that the first word I said in that phrase was spoiler-filled. Those are two words. That also wasn't the first word I said. Point is, this is going to be filled with spoilers. If you're not a big fan of spoilers, and I understand, I'm not a huge fan of spoilers either, you should go ahead and check out this video right here. I think it's a pretty decent one. But if you're not in the mood for another video and you're in the mood for some spoiler-filled Encounter Party action, then you've come to the right place. So let's go ahead and get started. Hit it, Ned! Why did I say Ned? I think I have Ned on the brain right now. Ned, look, I know that you're a football fan too, and I think you're a 49ers fan. I just wanted to say, hey, your team played very well past Super Bowl Sunday, and good luck next year. Episode 15, A Public Display of Conviction, starts at the Pineapple Surprise, which turns out is the name of a drink, and the group then debates what a fantasy pineapple might look like. Okay, then they get to the plan, to use the Sword of Sacrifice to draw out the future. Flick looks around and sees Trin, a woman that Ned just made up. He asks her to ask around about a magic item fence and buys her a drink for her troubles. Flick notices soon that two people in cloaks head to the exit. Flick mentions it may be time to go to the rest of the group, but Tullo likes the song a little bit too much to leave quite yet. As the song finishes, they leave and are approached soon by two members of the future. As Flick heads over, the two become four, and they get straight to business. Flick takes this all in good faith and begins to explain that he was looking forward to meeting them, and then he explains the group's shared vision. They ask how long the vision was, and then a fifth voice calls out about the magic item. A very tall female elf reveals herself. She wears robes of the future over her armor, and she asks again about the sword, which Vin shows her is on his person. She reads out a scroll, and then decides it's time to leave. Flick tries to get her to stay by offering the sword in exchange for information, and she simply says that they'll see. As they leave, one member gives Asher a quizzical look, and Asher rushes forward to ask if her sister is okay. The member of the future only responds that they hope she succeeds. We cut then to the Erickson estate. Tullo is unhappy with Flick's loose lips, or beak, and Flick justifies his actions by saying the reasons he believes his actions may lead to infiltrating the future, and the sword could be seen as a grand gesture. Tullo acquiesces on the condition that the group not mention the deaths of Vin and Olivina in the vision. They then take a long rest. The next morning, the group begins to plan a way to deliver a grand gesture, and Asher very excitedly reveals her master plan, to deface government property. Dridian responds with, "Say more, right now," and Asher begins to lay out her plan. She plans to rope in the Patriarch to allow them to deface his property and publicly stage this all in the name of saving the Patriarch's son, Caden. Vin is very excited about the idea of making slap-happy Duncan clean it all up, so he is certainly in. The rest of the group then agrees. So, they approach the Patriarch's manor under the cover of invisibility, and are allowed in. They explain their plan to Mallory Temperance, and the Patriarch states that this will require a great deal of cleanup and looks very pointedly at Duncan, and decides that he is in, telling them to get supplies from a warehouse on the docks who owe the Patriarch a favor. They get paint from the warehouse. They do a tiny montage of getting the defacement done, and rather than having one of the three strong guys climb up, or the Tabaxi as a climb speed climb up the building, the group decides in true D&D fashion to establish an elaborate system of ropes and pulleys to get Olivina to the top. As they try to work this out, Flick gets a nat 20 on an intelligence check for the plan, and gets advantage for the whole skill challenge for the rest of the group. The group completes their work in a few hours and get in another long rest. The next morning, they head back to the scene of the crime and find a large crowd has gathered. As they join the crowd, they are each approached by members of the future, who lead the group to a hidden meeting place. The future seems incredibly happy, and man, they are so cult-like. They are told that they will be led to their new home, and that their future will never be the same. Cult members! So they head to the Erickson estate, and Tolo has a package waiting for him. It's a potion rack. Well, he finds inside 4 random potions. Kari's very excited. They roll randomly. The first one is a potion of Hill Giant Strength. The second is an oil of slipperiness. The third is a potion of resistance, although I guess they don't do a subtype. And the final is a potion of water breathing. The group gathers the rest of their supplies and heads to meet the future. The elf woman, named Elgri, is waiting for them at the gate leading out of the city, and they hop onto a wagon. Elgri doesn't speak, and they head northeast out of town. They are informed that it's going to be a 2-day journey. Tolo tries to make the trip an opportunity to befriend Elgri, but fails hysterically. The first night, they have bonding. But wait, Flick has to deal with curse stuff. That's back, and Flick fails miserably for the first time. Flick has regretted 1 step, and we do not know what that means. At least the bonding was successful, and they gain a point of group inspiration. On the second night, Flick fails his curse again, and he is now degraded 2 steps. He now has a terrified, frantic energy. Brian again perches over Ned's shoulder and taunts Flick, claiming that Flick's end is near. The group discovers that they are headed towards the Serpent's Tail stream. Asher approaches Flick and asks about his affliction, trying to suss out answers. And Flick doesn't really respond super well to that. Eventually, the group enters the forest, and as the sun sets, they discover a hidden fortification. Within, members of the future move about. Elgri retrieves the sword from them and leaves as the group is inducted into the fold of the future by a gnome, Coraline, and a fairy named Cheeto, who gets extremely excited at the sight of Asher, stating that they didn't know that she's had family. The two take the group into the fortification, and yeah, we get new terrain all over the table. It's a building layout. Tolo and Dridian remind themselves and the rest of the group that despite the cheeriness, they are now in the belly of the beast, and they must behave as beasts do. And that's it. That's the episode. There's a lot of information going on in this one, and a lot of action happening. No combat, but that's okay. We get to see the group infiltrating a cult, and I feel like there's some sort of Dateline special about this, but this is in D&D fashion. All right, the next thing I'd like to do is talk about the things I liked, the things I didn't like so much, and what I'm looking forward to seeing next from Encounter Party. Okay, so first, what did I like about this episode? All right, well, I need to give props to Brian and how he opens up his world and the creation of the details of the world to his players. Brian's relinquishing of control, check out this video, by allowing members of the group to have a say in what exists in the world is frankly inspiring for any dungeon master watching. This is best exemplified by Tren, the woman that Ned made up as a contact for Flick, who Brian was more than willing to roleplay in the moment right at the table. Awesome job, Brian. Okay. Next, new terrain. It's always a good time for me. I always enjoy new terrain. I do hope that we get more of a look at those dungeon pals that we saw for the Futures little complex next week. Lastly, I thoroughly enjoyed Asher's plan for a grand gesture. Not only was it a great and fun plan, but it was a fun way to get group involvement by choosing something that then, a character who traditionally doesn't interact with Asher very often, a reason to buy in. Okay, so what didn't I like? It was a solid episode, honestly, no complaints. Okay, lastly, what am I looking forward to seeing? The future. The upbeat, cheery nature of the future really gives them this sort of sinister vibe, and I really want to know more about what they are truly up to and where's the evil involved. Okay. On a side note, Medagai Almori's sickness is being kind of put to the side as they go on this little quest to infiltrate the future, and I'm curious if this is going to turn out to be a bad decision to leave town. All right, back to the future. I am curious on how the future is going to react to receiving a cursed item as a gift, the Sword of Sacrifice. Is it all the same to them? Magic item equals magic item. Or is this going to spell trouble for the group? I'm very curious about that. All right, and that's it. That is episode 15. I want to thank you for joining me and talking about Encounter Party. The next episode of Encounter Party will be airing next week, February 20th, on the Dungeons & Dragons Adventures Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, if you haven't already, you should join the Encounter Party Discord. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. Anytime that the episodes air, whether it be a brand new episode or whether it be a rerun, the cast is often inside the Discord, kind of joining and answering questions and giving out theories and just having a general good time. Okay, also, if you have thoughts about this episode, I would love it if you shared them in the comments below. I would love to hear what you thought of this episode of Encounter Party. I'm always curious on what other fans think. If there's something that you think I missed, or there's something you think that I hit right, or there's something you just want to point out, I would love to hear about it. Otherwise, the standard, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That would be great. That would help me out a lot. Okay. Regardless of any of that, I do want to thank you for being here today, and I look forward to seeing you next week.